It's no secret that New York City is achieving record rents. And it seems that every month rents are going higher and higher and higher. And with this renewed rental activity, we're starting to get a lot of interest from investors looking to purchase New York City real estate. I get the same question over and over again. What should I buy as an investor? And today we have two great guests on our show who are gonna help us answer that question. We have Tara King Brown, who is the founder of the King Brown team at Corcoran Group. She sold more than $1 billion worth of real estate over her 20-year career and is the go-to authority for new development here in the city. We also have Kirsten Jordan from the Kirsten Jordan team at Corcoran Group. Kirsten is responsible for more than $1.5 billion worth of New York City real estate sales. She's also the first female member of $1 Million Listing New York. Tara, Kirsten, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so glad to have both of you guys on today because we've worked together for a long time. Tara was actually my good friend when we started up Excel. She was an instrumental piece of that. Kirsten, you've been a great supporter of Excel. We followed your career and watched you explode in growth. Although I do have to say, I'm a little embarrassed. I did an episode of $1 Million Listing, and the day after it aired, they announced the show was canceled. So I partly feel responsible, and my apologies if it was my fault.
There's somebody else much more responsible, which is the person who single-handedly took down the entire franchise in one season, which is me.
That was not you. That was not you. I know who it was. It was not you. It was probably me. It was probably me.
Together. But we should channel that strength into something else.
And if it was you, maybe you did him a favor. You know?
I mean,
no, but I don't think it was you.
We need more reality, less reality, TV.
We do need less reality TV.
Yeah. That's why we're keeping it real today.
We need elevated television.
Yes.
We need to all learn something and not go down that road. So y'all, every month the rent gets higher. Every month in the Real Deal, which today we're reporting live from the Real Deal Expo, we have record rents. I'm looking at our portfolio and it seems we're up really, for some reason it's only being reported as 6% year over year in the papers. I'm looking at our portfolio, we're up like 15 to 20% in rent growth. I have a 0.25% vacancy rate, which is great, right? Although we don't want the rent to go too high, none of us will be able to afford to live here. But what it's done is it's finally spurring some investment activity. I'm getting a lot of calls now, which were calls I haven't gotten for a few years of, hey, I'm an investor. The first call I got, which is a couple of weeks ago, they said investor. I had to Google what that meant. So I'm like, wow, what does that mean? I haven't heard this word since 2018. And, with those headlines, investors are looking at the city again. And I got a call from someone a week ago, which is the catalyst for why we're doing this topic of, I'm an investor and I'm looking to buy an apartment. What should I buy? So that's why I want to do this episode with you today. What should investors be buying? And I want to go over all the different kind of, situations of what they buy. So we'll talk about all those as we go, but this is going to be a great episode.
Awesome. Thank you.
So Kirsten, let's start with you. If I'm an investor from outside the city or even inside the city, where should I be buying? What are the neighborhoods that are ripe for investment?
I have a couple thoughts on neighborhoods because of the fact that I've helped a lot of investors over the years. One of the things to think about is there is the secure aspect of buying in one of the top neighborhoods like Tribeca, the West Village, where we've just seen year over year, not only have the values grown from an appreciation perspective, but vacancy continues to get tighter and tighter and rates continue to go up. Rents continue to go up. So I think, and then obviously there's the prime Upper West Side, prime Upper East Side, which are easy spots to say that's amazing. That's a place to buy. The other idea is go to up and coming, try to be the person who's trend setting. I had a client or a buyer a long time ago that bought in 2011 in Tribeca, and they had spent years walking every block of Tribeca, and they bought an apartment in the building where Taylor Swift ended up buying. And he bought it before she bought there. It was a foreclosure. It was an incredible deal. But he knew it was cool before, and it was always cool. It was a great block. But he was like, I think this is the best block in Tribeca. And he made $7 million on that apartment, keeping it rented out.
Is that the one you just had multiple bids on?
Well, this was another one. But it was but he was if where you like your neighborhoods, that's where you can go block by block and say this is going to be an amazing place to buy. So I think pick a prime neighborhood, or if you really know your stuff, you can go up and coming, but you got to know it. Like you got to know that area cold.
So Tara, what would look, the prime neighborhoods are easy. We know West Village. And by the way, I always thought, this is like a stable asset that wouldn't appreciate much on, rent growth and things of that nature until you look at some West Village neighborhoods and buildings where rent's up 30% in a couple of years. You're like, okay, maybe like there is aggressive growth in some neighborhoods. But if I want to go to like an up and coming neighborhood, where would I look?
So in the city, what we're seeing is really interesting on the Upper East Side, the east part. So let's say like east of 3rd Avenue, all this incredible new development. So like Beckford House, Beckford Tower, all these Ramsey buildings, 200 East 83rd. It's kind of like this renaissance, and luxury is pushing east. So,
which is funny to talk about the Renaissance. Less than 3 years ago, we had those articles about how the Upper East Side is dead and no one cool lives there anymore. And now all of a sudden it's got the lowest vacancy everywhere.
Exactly.
Of any place.
So east part of Upper East Side, I mean, pockets of like Hudson Square that are literally sandwiched between two of the most blue chip neighborhoods in all of Manhattan, so West Village and Tribeca. And then, or some people like to say Soho West, not Hudson Square. But you look at tech, you just had like massive AI firms in addition to all like the massive tech and everything else in that neighborhood. It's kind of inevitable that
and
that's
Disney,
going to continue.
right?
And Disney, and exactly all of the, Google, the old St. John's Terminal campus. And so pockets like that. And then there's other areas. I'm going to plug Kirsten for a minute here. A financial district. We have been personally involved
we've been down there
for 15, really 20 years almost, right?
Are we still selling how the Freedom Tower and the Fulton Street Transit Hub is going to skyrocket value, or is there a new story?
But what the point is, the investment, both public and private, in Lower Manhattan continues to be an incredible journey. And when you see all of the development along the east side, kind of like what the Hudson River Park, what they're doing on the east side, it makes me feel really good about downtown, even Fidei,
for sure.
and a little bit more east. So the story of the last 20 years has been very much west. I'm looking at Manhattan East, and then when you get into Brooklyn, Greenpoint, and even like more East Williamsburg. I just sold a townhouse on Wither Street. So, these are the neighborhoods that are, as long as it's close to transportation, are still, you're seeing nice appreciation.
Right, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of Park Slope. We're seeing
amazing.
I have a lot of clients that are coming to us, and they're all buying Brooklyn right now, which is great to see. Great to see.
Yeah.
So, what are the best size apartments to buy? People are always like, do I buy two 1 bedrooms? Do I buy a 3 or 4 bedroom? Like, what's the safest category of bedroom count?
Well,
or does it not matter?
So I have thoughts on how long-term you are as an investor, because I've also helped a lot of people through 1031 exchanges. And so if you can get a nice size apartment that's in an area where it's going to appreciate well, because that size of apartment does well over time. Like you buy something in Tribeca that needs work, or you buy something in like even the West Village, if somehow you found something that, was a townhouse and, and you were able to do some upgrades without having to go crazy over time. I think those are the kinds of things where you could eventually 1031 exchange those into multiple properties, which I've helped a lot of people do. But that means long-term investment, right? Of like taking that long-term approach. Otherwise, I gotta say, those 1 bedrooms and the a 2 bedroom or like a 1 bedroom with a home office in a great neighborhood in a great building, you just can't lose.
Well, there's always demand, right?
It's also like you have to read your audience with the neighborhood. So the other thing is that, are you buying, like a lot of our investor clients are buying, maybe they want to be near NYU because after they rent it for 2 or 4 or 5 years, their kid that's currently in high school is planning to go to NYU or maybe Columbia or something. So there's often other drivers behind why somebody is, quote unquote, investing in New York.
Right. Well, they'll have some other story as well.
That's going to really dictate. But one thing that I always tell my investors is beware of whatever category you fall in. So let's say you're Tribeca in a 3-bedroom. Don't buy a 3,000 square foot 3-bedroom because you're diluting the value on a square foot basis. Like at 1,500 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1.5 bath, that might be really nice for you.
Right.
But that's not going to get the rent in the 1 bedroom category.
Right.
Go buy a 2 bedroom with a home office that's 1,500 square feet.
You want like the efficiency.
Efficiency layouts are the name of the game when it comes to rentals in terms of maximizing your per foot rental, your cap rate and your rental income. So
great.
Something to keep
We're
in
going to
mind.
take a short break and we'll be right back.
When we first started Excel Real Property Management 11 years ago, we did so with the intention of protecting the investment community. Here at Excel Real Property Management, we focus specifically on serving the needs of individual apartments, townhouse, and small multifamily building owners both in Manhattan and select neighborhoods of Brooklyn. Our services encompass everything: rent collection, expense payment, handling maintenance and repair, turnover between tenants, insurance needs. Literally anything that an investor would typically handle him or herself, we take care of for them. Whether you hold one individual apartment or a rental building that houses 20 units, Excel is here to help with all of your specific needs.
Looking to stage a property but on a tight budget and timeline? Stage with Stage and Fold. Stylish, lightweight, foldable, 3D printed cardboard furniture that looks real. Quick delivery and easy assembly. Staging starts at just $199 a month per room, and setup takes less than 30 minutes. Contact us today to stage smarter, sell faster, save thousands with Stage and Fold.
Okay, we're back. And by the way, Sarah, I forgot to congratulate you. $87.5 million sale.
I was going to say, when you started rattling off the billion, I was like, I think at the end of the year, she might be $500 million more.
One apartment, $87.5 million. Really,
Thank you very
congratulations.
much.
That's
Listen, we
insane.
on the new development side, the best prime West Village location, the best developer, the best architects. It's just the dream. So
every
140
factor
Jane
was
Street,
there.
But thank you. I appreciate that.
So here's my next question. Do amenities matter? And Excel oversees a lot of rental properties. You love the amenities, but then you look at the common charge bill with the pool, the jacuzzi, and the cold plunge, and the yoga studio. Does that matter to an investor? Like, is that going to help your bottom line on rent, or is it going to be offset with the expense?
So one of the things that you always have to think about is vacancy when things are harder. And so the thing with having the amenities is it's always going to cost more, but you're always going to have less vacancy when you have the amenities.
Right.
However, when I have a diversified portfolio with one client, usually if they have some no doorman product because the fact that the price per square foot was so great and they knew that with those lower monthlies they were going to get a higher yield, they usually balance it out with having some amenitized product because they get a lower yield, but it's more stable.
Right.
Especially if you have larger apartments. Like I have one client who has a portfolio of large apartments in Tribeca and some in the West Village, and that is easier to rent out the one in Tribeca that has the amenities. However, we get such higher yield on our big 3-bedroom non-amenitized loft, on Washington, and people are okay with that, but not in every neighborhood.
Right.
And I think that to build on that, the size of the building really matters. And the reason it matters is that for these 60, 80, 100 unit buildings, having amenities there's economy of scale with the carry cost.
Right.
So obviously as an investor perspective, the carry cost is a huge part of your
Instead
your
of
cap rate.
only 12 people
Right.
trying to afford the doorman, at least you can amortize it over 100
Exactly,
residents.
or any CapEx projects or local law 11 stuff. So, all of these considerations. So I like for investors bigger buildings because it feels safer and more insulated.
Right.
But you still get to charge a premium for all those amenities, but you're not paying for them at the same rate that you would be if it was a 20 or 30 unit building.
Right.
So bigger buildings for investors is generally where I kind of steer people for that reason.
Okay, no, those are both great answers because you always get that. Do I need the doorman? Do I not? And it does help
Right.
you rent better, but is your yield going to be as high?
Right.
It is a
Always.
little more insulated
Not
though
always.
as well when the market does shift. Okay, condition of apartment. This is an interesting one
Yeah, we like
because
this.
Spicy.
right now, nobody wants to buy an unrenovated apartment. And if I look at our portfolio and the apartments that are selling, it's the ones that are nicely renovated. Everybody's afraid to do work right now because of construction costs and time, but can I get away with buying a slightly older apartment and maybe not renovating it, running it to death, or is that a bad idea? Because if I'm an investor, I don't want to do work.
I'll say my
The
piece.
sweet spot for me, from my perspective, and watching people, investors get in and get out, and the rental income, so the whole cycle of the investment, I'm a big believer of like the 10-year-old apartment.
That's the sweet spot, right?
Give or take, and I'll tell you why. When it's brand new, there's a shiny new penny. Brand new development, you're going to pay up for that.
Right.
Is that
You're
going
also the guinea pig, by the way, from the building problems in the leaks.
But sometimes even with every new development, there's a couple of years working through the kinks. Even like the 220 Central Park South of the world has kinks in the first 5 years. So that's exactly to your point. Exactly. But you still have a nice runway before you start to have to replace appliances, before you have major CapEx, before the roof needs replacement, all of that. But you're at a level where it's new enough, where people are still really paying up on a per foot basis for the rent. So it's a really sweet spot. You're getting it at a low basis on the purchase, and you're still realizing very similar rent as if it was brand new, and you still have a good runway. So those are my,
So your interest, 10-year renovation is
10-year give or take.
Where you should be.
Yeah. Could be, exactly. It depends on the project. Some of them at 7 are in that way, depending on what's surrounding it and what else is new. The other thing is like, if the condition of the home or the condition of the building is that if you buy this 7 to 12 year out kind of reno, can you do light touches without having to do a full gut to make improvements?
like a little cosmetic.
Right,
Here
like with one of my clients that owns a couple of other properties, they were lucky to have a tenant that moved in at one point and they renovated the bathrooms themselves. That's what they wanted. They wanted a long-term lease.
Amazing.
And like, it was great because everything else was in good enough shape. Or like change a countertop or like change a backsplash. Stuff that's not major, swap out appliances, those are the kinds of things where you can get massive additional value for the home without having to gut it.
Right.
And so that's like why what Tara's saying makes a lot of sense, because you don't want to have to redo electrical.
Right.
Plumbing, electric,
all the heavy
you don't wanna do
lifting.
that.
all the heavy
Reno.
lifting.
Yeah.
But when you do buy, if you are buying something that's older, you got to make sure everything is working. You want it durable. So if we're on the last legs of that 15 or 17-year renovation, we do got to put some work in. The laws are very much in favor of tenants.
Of course.
So we don't want to be an investor, buy something and just, have a problem with tenants because the apartment's too old and we didn't renovate it up.
If they do need, let's say it's an investor that has bought 15 years ago and is now looking to do their renovation, Excel will oversee the renovation.
Excel will do everything.
You've
That's
done
our value
that
add.
for listings of ours.
We
and
got renovate apartments.
they were so happy to have you oversee that, because what investor, especially somebody that's overseas or abroad, wants to have to micromanage renovations in New York
if you're
City?
in Singapore, I don't think the
absolutely
renovation
not.
effort would be so fun.
I don't want to oversee it from 2 blocks.
It's
so,
not fun when you live
That's
here.
on you.
No, but we do a ton of that work. We renovate, we make sure we're positioning the apartment for where you should be in the market.
Right.
We don't want to over renovate, we don't want to under renovate, so we got to be careful about all of those things. Okay, here's another question. Better to purchase an individual apartment or a small building? And I know you guys are probably a lot more focused
On individual?
the apartment side and less on buildings, but what would you advise? So let's say I'm that investor with a $3 million budget. Do I go to Harlem and buy a small brownstone?
I was going to say, where are you finding a building, Dylan?
Exactly. I would like to know. And by the way, higher cap rates usually mean that there's more risk.
More risk,
So,
right?
usually,
Higher
so if you're
risk,
buying a
higher
building
reward.
with $3 million, most likely the cap rate might be a little higher, but you're dealing with potential tenant turnover or other issues with the building. So, I mean, if you're just getting started, frankly, I would never start with a building. I feel like that's the best way to ruin your whole life.
Oh, no,
to be
and
honest.
I see so many clients that do it, and then they're in tears. I didn't know it was going to be like this. It's
How many times do people send you buildings that have, in the fine print, 2 rent-stabilized tenants, and they're like, well, I want to buy this building, and I'm like, okay, let's just...
Can you help me get them out?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where
So-
are they going to go?
Yes. It's not for the faint of heart.
No.
Multifamily, especially when there's rent stabilized, is you need to be a veteran of real estate in New York City to consider that.
Yeah, I would say one tenant at a time in the beginning, and then because I even remember in 2000, one of my first clients ever or one of my first sellers ever was somebody I was helping them with rentals in a building that they had on the Upper East Side, and during the financial crisis, he had a really hard time. And I remember having to like front him, I basically had to wait on commissions. And then eventually we ended up selling the building to somebody who was a 1031 exchange. But the moral of the story is like, if you don't know what you're doing and you're a little over leveraged, you definitely don't want to be dealing with multiple tenants at the same time.
Oh, and this is not a place to practice either.
No.
I mean, we get clients sometimes, and I'm like, why did you buy this building? You're like an amateur investor, like maybe, a doctor actually we have in Virginia, and he bought this building. I'm like, no, this building was not for you. This is like pro varsity level, like I know what I'm doing, I'm related group, and you have this guy up against like New York City. Trying to operate this building.
Exactly. I have the happy medium for somebody. Come in at the end of a new development where the developer just wants to get out,
Pay
and
off
there's
the
an
loan.
opportunity, and buy a couple of units, but like free market, that's where the opportunity. There's different angles, so that's where we really try to give good advice and steer them from.
No,
away
that's
from,
smart.
yeah.
Although I always think, would someone be really smart to buy a bunch of rent-stabilized units right now? I know there's no glimmer of hope right now, but like, if you look at all the people that made real estate money,
Right.
they all bought at a time where like the market was a disaster and
Yeah.
you were psycho to consider buying.
It's kind of like Tribeca in like the 70s.
Oh,
or
for
like,
sure.
Like
Williamsburg
like
in
the
the 80s.
Ponte family of Tribeca, or like the Gottlieb family of the West
Yeah.
Village, right? Like who's the next that today, 30 years from now, we're going to look back?
I do think
Right.
about that. But for the amateur investor, let's start with like a great condo unit, maybe 5 to 10 years old.
I would highly discourage buying a rent stabilized apartment right
I
now
agree.
if you don't know what
In
you're
this
doing.
political
Well,
environment,
that's why no
too.
one's buying them.
I know.
All right, we're
He's
going to
such
take
a
another short.
contrarian.
We're going to take another short break, and we'll be right back.
From residential and commercial closings to litigation, Romer DeBoss is your full-service real estate law firm. We blend big firm knowledge with boutique-level attention, delivering outcomes that exceed every expectation. Contact us at romerdeboss.com.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. We work with Brown Harris Stevens and many other top real estate firms, staging their homes to sell quickly and at the highest price possible. Our staging is affordable without sacrificing quality or design. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, we're back. So let's talk about cap rate. Obviously, when you're an investor buying, you want a return on your money. Where are cap rates falling these days? Tara?
Sure. I mean, on a single apartment, so we're not talking multifamily, you're sort of in that 2 to 3% range, right? So
Right.
When we started back in the financial district days with all the tax abatements and things that there was like hardly any carry costs, it was 5% cap rates, and that was really attractive. And not only that, but you're buying a trophy asset in the best city on the planet, in my humble opinion, and things that everybody wants a piece of the Big Apple, right? So it's a trophy asset, it diversifies their portfolio. There's all these other reasons.
You're going to live there one day, maybe?
Exactly, or their kids or what have you. So there's the appreciation, there's the cap rate. All these things need to be considered kind of more cohesively, but it's not like you're going to be competitive with real estate one-off apartments, cap rates, versus other, putting it into like a treasury bond is 5%. So,
For sure.
Right. Especially if you're going to do any of compare this to the triple net leases of buying McDonald's buildings or Applebee's. It's just never going to be that.
Right.
But the great thing is you could live in it someday if you wanted to. One of your kids could live in it. And I do have to say, when it comes to rising cap rates for individual apartments, the places I see the highest yields are always homes that are in non-doorman buildings, larger apartments that needed some work, and maybe they need to get in there and fix them up. And in those cases, the numbers are higher. In the long term, you still have to buy well, and you still have to know what you're doing. And when those rents are good, they're really good. And when things are bad, they swing really bad.
Yeah, they swing harder.
Yeah, so it's but that's the only places I've seen those 5, 7 cap rates after, if they bought well and maybe you bought during the financial crisis and it was something that was had some sort of opportunity. Other than that, that's where you're at.
Okay. Which, again, if you're buying, you're going to hold it for 20 years. Maybe you're retired. Like it's a great investment.
And it's
just over
a
time.
utility for yourself or for your family, or it's not always about just the cap rate.
Well, it's a lot of people's escape plans too. Like they live in a foreign country, and they're like, America is safe. So if something ever happens,
we are very secure, like relative to other major cities around the world. We're an incredibly secure place for real estate.
Well,
capital.
remember the other thing is like because of the tax laws in the United States, like those yields are not the whole piece or the whole pie, because I have an investment property up in Westchester, and my husband also uses another property that we have as investment, and it completely changes the tax structure of your expenses on that property. And so a lot of the reason why these people are okay with lower yields is because the fact that they're able to use it to transform any of the expenses they're putting towards that property, all the travel they're doing to go to visit that property, all that becomes tax deductions.
There's a huge tax strategy behind owning.
Well, and look, we're seeing all these reports now, and I happened to break the news on this. I feel like I did a podcast on this a month ago. Sometimes, like for example, in Japan, those investors aren't necessarily buying for cap rate; they're buying for tax depreciation
100%.
because it's so favorable for them to buy.
Exactly.
All right, last question, and we'll go to you first, Kirsten. What should an investor know before buying? So I'm ready to go. I decided I'm buying New York City real estate. What should I know before jumping into the market?
Oh.
Or what should you not know, Miss
What should you not do? Well, first of all, you better know a good real estate agent, because I have to say that how often do Tara and I get stuck in a situation where we have to bail somebody out because they didn't have good counsel.
Yeah,
number one.
You need someone that cares about you, a broker that cares about you, not just the commission.
Exactly.
I mean, so that's number one.
Yeah.
And then the number two thing you need to know is, like, you really do need to know the tax laws. I mean, there's a lot of other things to know, but I think the real estate agent can cover so much of it. The tax laws are really important because right now, between LLCs, transparency, your own personal tax burden, benefits, all the things, financing, all of it, like it all comes together that you do have to have that be part of your picture in your pie, because it does matter.
Exactly. And you need to have, if you don't want to be a hands-on landlord that's answering calls because the fridge broke at 2:00 in the morning and you have to have the right team in place. You're part of that team.
Exactly.
The right attorneys are part of that team.
Account is part of the team.
Accountant's part of the team. Buying in an LLC for liability reasons, like all of these types of considerations. And a lot of our clients, when they come in, they just see the sticker price of the property. Our job is, giving them the full transaction costs. Like, do they understand what FERPTA is when they sell it? The withholdings, if they're international. Obviously, that doesn't apply for domestic. But the point is just making sure somebody has like a full understanding, soup to nuts, from the time they purchase to the time they sell. What that's cost-wise, experience, time, resources, and most important, having the right management.
Having the right management. Laws are very complicated here. Yeah. Tenants are demanding. Right. There's a lot of moving pieces. You definitely need a very well-qualified property manager like Excel.
Exactly.
All right, Tara, Kirsten, this has been fantastic.
So
hopefully our viewers learned a lot about the process
Dylan.
here. We'll see you next time on Managing Manhattan.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business. And it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.